Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are around this world. And another very interesting edition of WOWSA Live with David Tonge. He's actually a Welsh swimmer, and he did something very unusual, but he's a lifelong swimmer, and we're just going to ask him about his life in the water. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone as well.
Yeah. I see a bunch of medals behind you, so obviously you're quite an accomplished swimmer. Can you give us a little background of?
Well, interestingly, the medals that are behind me, I didn't purposely do that. We've sort of switched around just for the lighting in the room. So these behind me are from sort of triathlon and running over the years, just over the last 10 years. Because as a club swimmer and national level swimmer in Cardiff in Wales, it was always, I was a 200 freestyle swimmer and a 100 fly swimmer. And then when I stopped at the age of 19, I had a couple of years out of the water, went back into masters swimming. And I enjoyed it, but I found open water swimming, and we started doing the Ironman distance swims, which are set up around Wales. There's quite a lot of events called Long Course Weekend, which is in Tenby. And then, of course, Ironman Wales, which is run down in Pembrokeshire, which is also Tenby town. So the medals behind are two Ironman Wales medals, London Marathon, Long Course Marathon 3 times, the Wales swim, which is a 3.8K, so Ironman distance swim, I've done about 7 times. I've always been about top 20 in that, so it's always been my sort of go-to to try and get better each year. And then the red medals behind are actually Cardiff Half Marathon. I'm not built for running, and swimmers, well, they do become good runners, but I'm definitely not built for running. So I've done Cardiff Half Marathon about 5 times. So they're not actually my swimming achievements over as a youngster. They're just in my. I'm actually more prouder of them than I am of my sort of sprinty stuff as a youngster.
Yeah. I like that word, sprinty stuff. And, so you began in the early age to swim, correct?
Yeah, so I started swimming in a little club in Splot in Cardiff, and it was called Splot Squid Kids. So my mum was always passionate about me being a swimmer. She couldn't swim very well herself, and she was never taught as a child. And so I was given the opportunity, and so were my brother and sister. So we started swimming, literally they take us from 4 years old in the UK. And, she was always taking us to the swimming pool and getting water confidence. But yeah, proper lessons from the age 4. And then age 8, I was picked to go and join Cardiff Swimming Club. Back then it was a case of, you look good enough, away you go, instead of going for trials, so to speak. And I worked my way through the squads, and I ended up in National Performance Centre under Dave Hallow, which was the Olympic coach in Cardiff.
Yeah.
And John, you probably know Dave or heard of Dave. And John Stout was also my coach, who was also coached some really high level swimmers. So stopped swimming in Cardiff Swimming Club when I was 18, going on to 19. And then because I was a lifeguard, I became a lifeguard when I was 16. And I was also a swimming teacher. And I decided to choose a career in leisure, in sport, rather than pursuing, my swimming career. But I've always been in and around swimming pools. I was head coach of the junior academy at the local university in Cardiff, Cardiff Met University, which used to be called UIC. And I progressed through the ranks there, and I did 20 years in total before I started my own business. I was performance director for swimming, so I coached the national and international students for Cardiff at the university, and then started my business alongside, which is called Heathwood Swimming, which is an endless swimming pool business. And it was the only one in South Wales at the time. I've been doing it about 3 years now. And since opened a facility with 2 endless pools in, so I got a good connection with endless pools in America. Really good relationship with them, and I've actually ordered a 3rd pool, which will be coming next August, so that's exciting.
Wow. I want to circle back to endless pools, but first, you started out as a 100 butterflyer and 200 freestyler. It'll be very interesting when we talk about your latest world record, but what was just natural, came to you, that sprint, fly, and middle distance freestyle?
Yeah, I think It's an interesting one as a child, and I'm sure it's the same around the world. But you're encouraged to try all the distances, try all the strokes. And I was always a good butterfly swimmer. I still like swimming butterfly now. I don't like sprinting and racing butterfly anymore because it's too painful. And certainly don't like sprinting or racing 200 freestyle. But that was what I fell into. I had a go at IM, and again, my coaches always encouraged to mix it up and try and see where the talent lay, so to speak. And 200 free was always my love. I was also a decent 50 and 100 freestyler, nothing Olympic standard or Commonwealth standard, but 54.5 for 100 frees, not too shabby, going back, 20 years now. So I sort of, when I stopped that and maybe put a bit of weight on and got into a bit slower, sort of more ploddy type swimming, that's when I found my love of open water swimming and sort of longer swims.
Yeah. Now that brings us forward to your latest achievement, which was 24-hour swim. So you go from the sprint stuff, really, really long stuff. How did you make that transition, and why?
Well, as I said, the medals behind me, 10 years of open water swimming and doing pretty well at, holding 117, 118s per 100 for an open water swim. Coming out of the water, and I realized, well, swimmers, all these triathletes who are having a go at it, their worst discipline is swimming. I've come out, and even though I was never a distance swimmer, I fell into this sort of long distance stuff and really started working my threshold stuff and working overload and just trying to hold that long distance stuff in a wetsuit. I started building on that, and then lockdown last year. So when lockdown came in March last year, my business was forced to close, and I turned the water temperature off because to heat a pool is quite expensive. So I turned the water temperature off, and being a pool swimmer all my life, I don't really like the cold. I like the cold too much. So it was wetsuit swimming a lot in my pool with my son. My son was off school, so we were doing a lot of sort of swims. And he was swimming around me in circles in the endless pool, and I was swimming, and I was up in the distance, and it was quite an inspiring time because there was so many people around the world doing really crazy sort of marathons around their garden, and Sir Captain Tom did that walking around his garden at the age of 99 and raised all that money. And I said to my wife, I said, well, why don't I have a go at trying to do a long distance swim in my endless pool? To try and raise some money for the NHS, which is our National Health Service in the UK. So I did. I put a Just Giving page up, and which is obviously for people to donate anywhere. And I started putting it out on my social media that I'd been training every day, and I was up in my mileage and up in my distance, and I wanted to try and do a 12-hour swim, which is the same length of time as a doctor or a nurse would work, during their hospital shift. And that was the plan, and that's what I did. I raised £5,500 for NHS charities in my wetsuit in probably, I think it was about 18 or 19 degrees, the pool. So to these open water swimmers who are probably listening, they're probably thinking, right, okay, he's in a wetsuit in that. So, and yes, I have swum in the sea in that temperature without a wetsuit, but when I was pretty aerobic, so I was, I wasn't really working too hard. It was more about the distance and time in the water and going live on Twitter as well, so people could tune in and watch. The donations were coming in, and more and more people were watching, and so I managed to raise that money, and that's where that came from. And then the world record stuff. Well, when we opened back up for business in the August. One of my clients said to me, has anyone ever done that before? Has anyone ever done a wetsuit swim in a pool? Because, it's not a done thing, is it? Wetsuit swimming in pools, you go in the sea for a wetsuit, you get your added buoyancy and all this in lakes. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not sure. So sort of started looking, and then started making contact with the likes of Myra Santos, who's done her world record swim in the pool. We're now friends on Instagram, and we chatted about her sort of her ideas of her records and what she's doing. And I thought, you know what, I'm in the wetsuit now. I've been training in the wetsuit. Let's see whether we can up it. So I ended up doing 3 12-hour training swims, one night swim and 2 day swims. with my brother-in-law and my brother and a couple of people who were, on rotation helping me with my feeds and stuff. I just sort of trying to find my pace to then maybe announce that I was going to do the double and try and raise some money for our local cancer hospital in Cardiff, which is called Velindre Hospital. And there's various reasons for that. My wife's father has had treatment there, and so many people affected by cancer. So the distance was, the time in the water was getting up, the volume was getting up, and applied to world records, so official world records. And then I also applied to Guinness, and they sort of paused everything Guinness, but official world records were happy to sort of register it as a new attempt and a new record if I was to set one. And I thought, right, let's go for 24 hours. Well, I actually said 16 hours or more, and then it turned into 24 hours because I just got more and more confident with it. So went for the 24 and did it, and raised over £10,000 for the cancer hospital. So that was really fantastic.
Excellent. Now, when you were reaching, let's talk about the actual 24 hours. What time of the morning or afternoon or evening did you start?
So I started at 9 a.m. on the Friday, so Friday the 11th of June, and I went through to all day. I had, it was a 25-minute swim, up to 5 minutes if I wanted it. That was what we sort of set, because it was a new idea and a new benchmark. I'd obviously spoken to Myra and a few other guys who'd done these crazy swims, and what worked for me was that I wanted to fuel every 25 minutes and take some water on board, and my glucose, etc. So it was 12 hours from 9 a.m. and I went through till 9 a.m. the next morning, it was a long old day at the office.
So so you started at 9 a.m. but you had initially the idea to do at least 16.
Yes.
At what point did you decide, I'm going to do 17, I'm going to do 18, I'm going to go?
It was before the swim. I decided, because when I announced it originally on my social media, and that I was going to try and raise money for charity, etc., I said 16. I spoke to World Records, and they were like, you have to tell us how long you want to go for, because if you don't make it and you only do 14 hours, then it's not what you set out to do, so therefore we can't register it as a new category world record. So I thought, right, well, let's do it. I had a sponsor on board. I had a few sponsors, for the wetsuit. So who I actually supply their kit anyway with my business. So they very kindly did the world record logo on the wetsuit, and made a big effort with that. And when that was being made, I thought, well, let's make it a round figure. I've said 16. Training's going well. So I said to them, I've said 16, but I'm going to attempt 24. So they kept it at 16, and in my head and my team knew that I was going to go for the 24.
Got it. Now, at some point, were you getting tired, fatigued, shoulder sore, lower back sore, and what? There was time. Sorry, I'm going to just take my hat off a minute because I'm getting a bit hot. Bear with me. There we go. That's better. Sweating in you. So there was at the 12-hour marker, because of course, even though I'd done 3 12-hour swims, I'd never actually, and I'd swum through the night, so I was tired and sleep deprived, I'd never actually passed the 12-hour marker. So of course that was a big milestone. I got to the 12-hour marker, and after doing Ironman over the last few years, and you're on the bike and you're 112 miles and you're feeding every 20 minutes, that was in my mind. I got my nutrition right in training, and I was using quick release carbs as a drink, and just sort of small serene bar and little bits of flapjack. But on the day, for some reason, because my team were sort of bringing it to me, every time I stopped, I was having my drink, and I was also having a little bit too much sugar. So my blood glucose, the paramedics were there, through the whole swim, checking me every 3 hours, taking my blood sugar levels. And I was a steady 7 all the time. And then I got to the 12 hours, and they got me out just to sort of a little bit of physio, just to have a bit of a stretch. And my blood sugars were like spiked to 12. And they were like, right, okay, you're so aerobic, your heart rate, it wasn't even aerobic. I was literally resting heart rate, just plodding in the pool, getting quite cold. And I obviously, I was swimming a bit too slowly. Water temperature was 26 degrees, so it wasn't cold. But yeah,
that was a bit of a, not a scare, but I was having headaches and, you know, just too much sugar. So we decided we were going to up the speed. And I wasn't going to take any more food on board, just water and a little bit of my glucose drink.
Okay.
So yeah, so away I went, and I didn't really eat anything then for the next two to 3 hours. And blood sugars came back down, and the headaches went, and I was back in the zone. But my lower back, I've had a back operation. I had a laminectomy on my lower back 12 years ago. And that's what sort of another reason for slipping into marathon running and Ironman, just because I was told I shouldn't run. And it was something I was, really passionate about. I wanted to be able to do anything, and not be told I couldn't do something. So, but my lower back was sore during that swim. I was in a suit as well. It does sort of lift you up a little bit too high sometimes when you're swimming slowly in the water, so in the pool. So I did have a bit of an aching back. But as far as sort of muscular pain, because I was slow stroke rate and just holding the glide and really slowing everything down and working my rotation. I didn't really have that much shoulder pain or back pain compared to when I was doing my training swims. Mm-hmm. My training swims were a little bit slower than what my 24-hour pace was as well. So it was interesting, that one.
Okay. So you're swimming for 25 minutes. When you were stopping and resting for those 5 minutes, are you standing up? Are you on your back? Are you stretching? What do you?
I was getting out. So the physios were on board there, and they had the massage gun, and I had sort of treatment if I needed it. So I was allowed to get out of the pool for that, and and have a comfort break if needed. But generally, just getting up, stretching out, having a chat with my team. I had a couple of because I have a few coaches who work for me, so they were there. My brother was there, my brother-in-law was there, and a few of my swimmers were sort of on rotation, helping out with everything. And it was nice to just chat to people, and they were keeping me motivated, and telling me that my stroke looked okay, etc. And it was a live feed all day as well, so obviously everyone was watching, which was another good motivational tool.
Yeah, and for people who aren't familiar with the endless pool, you could actually turn up or turn down the counter current against you, correct?
Yeah, so it's 7 foot by 14 foot tank. The current comes at you as you're swimming, and then goes down into the back of the tank and gets sucked through the channels, which then go back into the system. So it's a flow of water constantly, and it's calibrated to 100-meter pace of the swimmer, and you can go from 7 minute per 100 pace all the way up to 114. I was in the 109 per 100. I was in the performance endless pool. There's 3 types: the original, which is goes up to 114, the performance, or the elite, which goes up to a 56 point. But I was nowhere near the top speeds. I held around the 2 minute per 100 pace the whole time. Okay. We sped it up a little bit when I got cold and when I needed to burn a little bit more glucose. But that was the average pace.
Got it. And then as you're going to midnight, I sort of call it the witching hour, 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. when I know you're swimming in the marathon swimmers and channel swimmers, but that 2 a.m. to 4 a.m., it's just, I've seen it, I've experienced it, it's tough. Did you get a witching hour with you?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'm totally on the level there with you. It was... do you know what? I was lucky because I've watched videos of other marathon swimmers, and some of them have done pool stuff, some are not swimming through the night. I was indoors and there was light, so I didn't actually have that, oh my God, it's pitch black outside sort of feeling. However, the team went quiet. It was, there was not as much motivation between 2 and 4 a.m. as there was at sort of 9 a.m. in the morning, I did go to some dark places. It was like, okay, I'm raising money for charity. I had the flag for the Velindre flag on the wall to the right, which motivated me and took me back to the place as to why I was doing it, as well as trying to get a world record. But that was there was some dark places, and I was thinking about what I would say to my swimmers if they were doing it. I was the coach watching, so right arm over left arm and get through it. But as soon as the dawn broke, 4 a.m., 4:30 in the morning, and you knew that it was coming towards the end, not towards the end, but you knew that it was the light was coming back up. That helps, as you obviously know.
Yeah. Did they give you a cup of tea, a cup of coffee during those breaks, or was it just the straight drinks and a few other.
No, I hadn't trained with any of that, so I didn't want to like mess up my bowels or mess up any, put me on a different level to what I was sort of used to doing. I think I was more stimulated than my team were, especially once the dawn broke. The end of the light at the end of the tunnel was coming, and I didn't really feel like I needed to go to bed when I finished. It's what's next then, isn't it? Do I keep going, sort of thing? But no, I didn't bother with the cups of tea or anything like that. I kept to the plan with the nutrition, and that worked. So I was really pleased with that working well.
Excellent. And then did you, just personal, did you have to go to the bathroom? Did you, what bodily functions did you have to do or didn't have to do?
So again, during training, that was a big one. That was a big one for me. And a lot of people, I've been interviewed a few times over the last 2 weeks about, did you go to the toilet? Was it number one, number two? So we had the chlorine levels up just in case I needed to go to for a wee or whatever. But I was able to get out, and I quickly jumped in the shower with my wetsuit on just to sort of wash off. 22 hours in though, it was time. It was time. I had to jump out. The wetsuit was pulled down, and I was into the toilet and then back in the pool within about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it lasted 22 hours, so I was quite pleased with that.
Yeah, excellent. And then when you finished, there was a countdown, or how did you know exactly there was 24 hours? Did your team wave at you?
Yeah, so we had. So I was. Because I had a watch on my arm anyway, so I knew what my swim times were. And we had a sponsor from 𝐒𝐭𝐞𝐯, which is the timing company, which do a lot of the athletics and stuff in the UK. When working at the university, I had a contact from 𝐒𝐭𝐞𝐯, and I messaged them and I said, is there any chance we could have an official sort of 2 clocks, one for total rest time, one for total time? Wow. So we had big digital clocks in front of the pool. And the crowds, there was lots of crowds because our COVID rules had changed. And one of the reasons why we postponed the record a couple of times was because of numbers indoors. I knew that I needed my team there, but I also wanted my family to turn up and friends and family to turn up for the finish. So there was a big crowd of people around the pool, and the pool was a sunken into the floor pool, not above ground. So I'm there and everyone stood above me watching. And so the last minute was it was emotional. There was tears into the water, and we cranked it up to 1:30 pace to finish off, just for the finale. So that was good. Yeah.
Excellent. And what are some takeaways that you've done the swim, you achieved your goal, you raised a lot of money, your family was there, your friends, coaches, sponsors. What's your major takeaways from doing this?
Well, I'm obviously immensely proud. I the first Welshman to do something like that, which is great. It was something that, it sounds a bit corny, but I've always watched sport. I love sport in Wales, and we're very proud with our sport, with rugby and football and swimming and everything. And I always wanted to. I never got the opportunity to put a flag over my shoulders and hold my Welsh flag up. So that was brilliant. That was really brilliant, and see my son and my daughter and my wife there watching me. So that was great. And the other thing that's really been amazing, since doing it, obviously I've had a few different interviews with press and stuff, but I got invited to my son's school to talk to them. They were studying champions. That was their subject. And they asked me to come in and show off, some pictures and tell them about what I did and why I did it. And it was really great to sort of see these 8 and 9-year-olds putting their hands up and asking questions about, ideas of raising money, how I learned to swim, where I learned to swim, what's the next goal. And I've done a couple of different schools around the area since, the sort of knock-on effect, there's a world record holder going around to the schools and talking about what they're doing. So that's made me really, really happy that I've it could be a 50 freestyler in that bunch, or another marathon swimmer, or whatever it is, inspired a child to become a good swimmer. So that's my biggest takeaway. Just being just proud that I've inspired people.
Wow. And of course, we have to ask the question: what's next?
Well, seeing as some people are curious about the wetsuit in a pool, I'm thinking about, I potentially might have a go at doing it without the wetsuit. how to read of the rule book, etc. And sort of, you know, I need to slow the current down or speed it up. I haven't decided yet to keep warm. That's my issue, is keeping warm. I spoke to Myra Santos about hers, and I just can't believe her water temperature, how she managed to do that. But she swims in the sea a lot in 20 degrees, and so she's acclimatized, which I get. But I'd love to do, you know, there's potentially the English Channel, which is on my radar. I've got a couple of ex-international rugby players who I train, and they're always they've always got new challenges coming up. So I'm always involved with stuff like that, and with swimming and triathlon. So I'm not too sure definites yet, but I'd love to do another marathon style swimming in endless pool, and definitely a sea swim as well. I'd love to do a long sea swim to see what I can get up to, because I do love my sea swimming.
Excellent. Excellent. David, congratulations very much. You did a wonderful job. You reached out,
Thank you.
Raised a lot of money for charity, and now you're speaking in front of your son's school. You're a hero to others. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.